anticipates things that are difficult while they are easy, and does things that would become great while they are small. All difficult things in the world are sure to arise from a previous state in which they were easy, and all great things from one in which they were small. Therefore the sage, while he never does what is great, is able on that account to accomplish great things. So it's easier to bend a tree when it's very young, and it's easy to train an elephant when it's still a baby. Page 376. Pan Nuan said, "My lord, haven't you heard that Marquis Wen once asked Dr. Bin Ke this question? In your family of 3 brothers, whose medical skill is the best?" Bin Ke answered, "My eldest brother's medical skill is the best. My second brother's comes second, and mine is considered the last of the 3. Marquis Wen asked, "Why do you say so? Can you explain it to me?" BNK said, "When my eldest brother diagnoses a patient, he examines his appearance and complexion before the pathogen could cause a disease. He has already cured the patient. This is why he's not a well-known doctor. His reputation only stays within the house. My second brother is able to cure his patient immediately when the symptoms of an illness begin to manifest themselves, so he is better known. But his reputation does not go beyond our neighborhood. As for me, I use acupuncture to improve blood circulation. I also prescribe medicinal soups that are potent, and I perform surgeries on my patients. That is why my good reputation is well known among the feudal lords. Nip it at the bud." So people say. 378. When all the wise ministers can work with one another harmoniously in the government, then all things outside the government will also exist harmoniously with one another. So there is no reason why peace cannot prevail in the world. Page 379. When everybody establishes a composed and respectful nature, and discreetly cultivates a virtuous conduct, no criminals can hope to escape from punishment, and no innocent people will have to live in worry and fear. People stop trying to curry favor, and bribery no longer works. Thus people become calm with few grievances. This state of affairs is known as the correct social custom. Page 380. The leader and his ministers are close to each other within the boundary of proper protocol. Officials remain cordial toward each other, albeit they hold different points of view. They give way to one another and do not clamor for credit. They work hard with no complaints. In times of stability, they keep firmly to their respective duties. These are signs of a country that is enjoying stability and peace. Page 381. In ancient times, people were appointed to government posts because they were virtuous and gifted. Today, people are appointed because they have money and powerful connections. Page 382. When higher-ranking officials are arrogant and lower-ranking officials are harsh and brutal, they will cause thieves and bandits to band and plot mischief. Valuable belongings that are not properly kept and hidden become targets for thieves and robbers. When attire and dispositions are overly sensuous, they have the effect of seducing others to commit sexual misconduct. Page 383. The problem with most people is that they would rather mourn for the dead than to love the living, and to regret the past than to plan for the future. They love to talk about the past and argue over things that have already been done. They waste their time and refuse to face the future until the day they die. It's funny, isn't it? Page 384. It is written in the memoirs of the elder Huang Xi, the gentle could overcome the tough, and the weak could overcome the ruthless. Being gentle is virtuous, and being tough is harmful. Naturally, the weak receive help from benevolent people, but ruthless people will only arouse enmity. Individuals who give up what is near at hand and seek what is far away will achieve little success despite their efforts. Individuals who give up what is far and seek what is near will achieve success easily. This will help more loyal officials to serve the state better, but the futile efforts of the former will only cause more people to revolt against the government. Therefore, it is said that a lord who craves to conquer more lands will eventually find his own lands turned barren. A lord who works on inculcating good morals among the people will lead his state to become stronger. Cherishing possessions already owned results in peace, but craving for others' possessions would make one become ruthless. Even when ruthless politics might bring success in the short run, in the long run it inevitably brings defeat. Page 386. Confucius said, "There are 3,000 offenses against which the 5 punishments of the ancient times are directed, and not one of them is greater than being unfilial. Those who threaten the ruler are repudiating his superiority. Those who undermine the authority of the sages are repudiating the validity of all laws and propriety. Those who malign filial piety are disowning the affection toward their parents. These 3 kinds of people will pave the way for anarchy." Page 387. If everyone in the country is fighting for their own interest, the country will be placed in danger. Page 388. Duke Ai asked Confucius, "I have heard that building an extension on the east side of a house is inauspicious. Is this true?" Confucius said, "There are 5 inauspicious matters, but building an extension on the east side of a house is not one of them. Damaging others to benefit oneself is inauspicious for oneself. Abandoning the old in favor of the young is inauspicious for the family. Dismissing the able and virtuous in favor of the unworthy is inauspicious for the country. When elders refuse to teach and the young refuse to learn, this is inauspicious for the society. When the sages are in hiding and the ignorant hold power, this is inauspicious for the world. All in all, these are the 5 inauspicious matters, but building an extension on the east side of the house is not one of them." Page 390. A leader is analogous to a boat. Well, the people are analogous to water. Water can carry a boat. It can also capsize a boat. A leader should take heed of the danger told in this analogy and understand that could be dangerous. Page 391. A crown prince need not worry about his wealth, or whether people will regard him with awe. He should instead worry about his insolence and expensive tastes, his isolation from criticisms of his faults, as well as not knowing how hard farmers have to work to make a living. What is worse is that he cannot even name the 6 domesticated animals. If this is the case, is it not time to study harder? Page 307. Page 392. Mencius said, "Even with the powerful eyesight of Li Lu and the skillful hands of Gong Shu, no perfect squares and circles could be drawn without the use of a compass and the carpenter's square. Even with the acute ear of the music master Shi Kuang, musical notes cannot be calibrated accurately without the use of the pitch tubes. Even with a virtuous character as good as that of Emperors Yao and Shen, no government can secure harder order for the country without the benevolent laws laid down by the ancient sage kings. Hence it is said, virtue by itself is insufficient in forming a good government, and laws cannot run effectively on its own." Page 393. King Wen asked Taigong, "How does the ruler of the state, the leader of his people, come to lose his position?" Taigong answered, "He loses his position because he is not cautious about whom he associates with. He should have used the 6 characteristics to select capable men and safeguard the 3 treasures. The 6 characteristics being benevolence, righteousness, loyal, trustworthiness, courage, and the ability to strategize. These are the 6 characteristics to look out for when selecting capable men." King Wen asked, "How does one go about using these criteria to select good men?" Taigong said, "Make them rich and observe whether they commit offenses. Put them in high positions and see if they become arrogant. Entrust them with office and see if they stay. Make them solve a problem and see if they will conceal anything. Put them in the way of danger and see if they are afraid. Task them to manage an emergency and see if they are able to handle it well. If they are rich but do not commit offenses, then they are benevolent. If they are in high position but do not become arrogant, then they are righteous. If you entrust them with an office and they stay, then they are loyal. If they solve a problem without concealing anything, then they are trustworthy. If they are in danger and are not afraid, then they are courageous. If you task them to manage an emergency and they handle well, then they are capable of making plans and strategizing. My Lord can use these 6 characteristics to recruit capable men and women. In addition, the ruler cannot entrust the 3 treasures to other people. Otherwise, he will lose his authority. The 3 treasures are agriculture, industry, and commerce. When the 6 characteristics are conserved, the country will flourish. When the 3 treasures are flawless, the state is secure. And the same applies to a family, right? Food is agriculture. Duke Jun asked Yang Zi, what should the ruler worry about the most in the matter of governing a state and its people? Yang Zi replied, there are 3 things that my lord should be most worried about. 1. A minister who is loyal to the ruler who is not being treated as trustworthy. 2. A minister who is trusted by the ruler is unfaithful to the ruler. 3. A ruler and his ministers have different agendas in their mind. A house divided. Page 397. With a wise ruler sitting in a position of authority, the incidents of a ruler distrusting his ministers will not happen, and the possibility of his trusted ministers betraying his trust will be eliminated. The ruler and his ministers share the same aspirations, and the populace will have no grievances. They are there to serve the people, right? Page 298. Moses said, a state may face the onslaught of the 7 perils. What are the 7 perils? They are: 1. The palace and its chambers undergo renovations while the 4 walls of a fortress and its surrounding defensive trenches can hardly withstand the attack of enemies. 2. None of your neighbors comes to the rescue while enemies invade your territory. 3. Valuable human resources are used on useless projects and unworthy people are rewarded. 4. The officials are only concerned about protecting their jobs and income. Scholars without posts are only concerned about establishing circles of influence. Meanwhile, a ruler amends laws to deter his ministers from voicing their opinions. The ruler overestimates, number 5, the ruler overestimates his own cleverness and fails to question the progress of administrative affairs. He takes no precautions because he assumes everything is in order. 6. Trusted ministers betray his trust while loyal ministers are cast aside. 7. Reserves and food crops are insufficient to feed the people, and ministers are incapable of shouldering government responsibilities. Rewards cannot make the people happy, and punishments cannot keep them in awe. Page 400. If a government runs into these 7 perils, the state will certainly meet its demise. If a fortress runs into these 7 perils, the city within the 4 walls will certainly fall into the hands of the enemy. Wherever these 7 perils dwell, there will be disasters. Page 301. The legalist Han Feizi summarized the faults of a ruler into the following 10 faults. 1. To practice loyalty in small ways, which betrays loyalty in big ways. 2. To esteem small advantages which hamper the big advantages. 3. To force personal biases, assert oneself and behave discourteously before feudal lords, which leads to self-destruction. 4. To neglect government responsibilities and indulge too much in songs and music, which plunges one into distress. 5. To be greedy, self-opinionated, and rejoice in nothing but gain, which sows the root of destruction for the state and oneself. 6. To become infatuated with women singers, dancers, and musicians, and neglect state affairs, which forecast the demise of the state. 7. To leave home for distant travels and ignore remonstrations from the ministers, which is the surest way to endanger one's august position at home. 8. To commit faults, refuse to listen to loyal ministers, and enforce one's own opinions, which destroys one's high reputation, and causes people to laugh at one's demise. 9. To take no account of internal strength, but rely solely upon foreign allies, which places the state in grave danger of dismemberment. 10. To insult big powers despite the smallness of one's own country and take no advice from advisers, which paves the way to extermination of one's posterity. Page 404. The leader who has caused the downfall of his state must have been a man of self-importance, arrogant, and disrespectful of able and virtuous people. He must have perceived himself to be clever, indomitable, and too important to waste his time on matters of administration. Page 405. Tedious rites and rituals will make propriety appear less solemn. Taking up too many tasks will make achievements less evident. Harsh laws will stir populace to defiance, and when there are too many prohibitions, they will become ineffective. People cannot keep track of the prohibitions, right? Page 406. Birds will peck when they are desperate. Animals will bite when they are desperate. Humans will cheat when they are desperate, and horses will run away when they are desperate. To this day, no ruler could stay safe and free from danger if his officials and people are driven to desperation. This is very good. Page 407. Confucius said, a superior person is on guard against three things. When he is a young man and his physical energies are not yet settled, he is on guard against lust. When he is in his prime and his energy is solid, he is on guard against combativeness. When he is old, his physical power is weakened, he is on guard against greed. Page 408. In ancient times, on the day when a man is laid to rest, eulogy will be written to attest to his virtues and contributions, as well as latter vices that cannot be concealed with the good deeds done earlier. Page 409. A superior person uses three object lessons to guide himself. Taking lessons from history, taking lessons from people, taking lessons from the mirror. From history, he learns how to avoid repeating the same mistakes. From people, he learns how to identify good officials. From the mirror, he can reflect upon himself clearly. Page 410. An official position is comparable to a loom used to weave benevolence. The authority is comparable to a shuttle facilitating righteousness. The sage steps on the loom and holds the shuttle, weaving educational lessons for the world, enabling all things to grow in harmony, and making the moral relations of human beings upright and proper. Page 411. Sages live in seclusion in order to avoid danger, but quietly they make observations and wait for the next opportunity to arise. But petty persons who do not know why good and bad fortune happens will stumble into catastrophe every time they acted rashly, irrespective of how many precautions they might have taken to protect themselves. Yep, that's really happened to me. Page 412. Confucius said, a superior person must calm himself before he takes any actions, be at ease before he speaks, earn the trust of others before he asks any favor from them. If a refined person can exemplify these three traits, he will be able to exist harmoniously with others without misgivings. Page 413. Confucius said, for a refined person, there are 9 things he needs to take notice of. In seeing, he must seek to understand correctly. In hearing, he must listen with clarity. His demeanor must be one of cordiality. His countenance must be one of respectfulness. He must be conscientious when he speaks and serious in his tasks. When in doubt, he must seek advice. When in anger, he must seek to realize its negative impact. He must also think of what is right at the sight of gain. If you gain the whole world. Page 414. A superior person is knowledgeable, but he is humble. He says little, but he puts principles into practice. He takes actions, but allows others to do the talking. When he sees personal gains, he contemplates whether these gains will bring forth humiliations. When he wants to back off from a problem, he contemplates whether this action will bring forth insults. As soon as greed arises, he can sense shamefulness. As soon as his anger arises, he can sense pending disasters. A refined person will hold on to this prudent attitude all his life. Page 415. Confucius said, a superior person, a refined person so to speak, strives to be discreet in speech but quick in action. Superior is like relative to other people. I guess refined is just, he's just refining himself or she is. Page 416. Success depends upon preparation in advance. Without such preparation, there will be failure. Know what to say in advance and you will not be stuck for words. Know what to do in advance and you will not be trapped in difficulties. Take actions after a plan has been carefully laid out and you will not make regrettable mistakes. Once the principles or moral standards have been set in one's mind, it will not be difficult to put the principles into practice. Zisha was appointed as the magistrate of country Jufu. He asked Confucius about governance. Confucius said, do not expect to achieve results quickly. Do not look at small advantages only. The desire to achieve quick results will lead to the opposite. The narrow view on gaining small advantages will impede us from achieving bigger successes. Don't be too nearsighted. Page 418. Yang Ying said, I have heard that one can serve 100 kings with all his heart, but he cannot serve one king well with divided loyalties. While the wishes of the three lords are not the same, I for one am not a servant with divided loyalty. Page 419. A country that does not have 9 years of food in reserve is said to be deficient in its financial standing. If it does not have 6 years of food in reserve, it is said to be in a state of physical crisis. If it does not have 3 years of food in reserve, it is said to be a country that has lost its sovereignty. In every 3 years of farming, 1 year of surplus food must be reserved for emergency use. In every 9 years of farming, 3 years of surplus food must be reserved. If we use 30 years as the base, the country will be able to have enough reserve food to withstand periods of drought and flood, and thus no famine will occur. The Son of Heaven can be worry-free and be able to dine in fine music. Page 420. If people were as careful at the end as they should be at the beginning, they would not ruin their success. Page 421. The book of Xi Jing states that, in the beginning all are good, but few prove themselves to be so in the end. If a leader cannot maintain his virtuous actions until the very end, he cannot be a good leader. Page 422. Nurturing children at an early age and let them learn to become righteous people is the most sacred form of contribution to mankind. That's much better than punishment and incarceration. Page 423. In order to stay healthy, rest to attain mental tranquility first, and maintain physical fitness next. When the mind is tranquil, the whole body will become healthy. This is the major part of a fitness plan. Plumping up the skin and satisfying the appetites constitute the minor part of the fitness plan. Page 424. Maintaining a tranquil spirit, overcoming negative thoughts, staying away from factors that can cause rheumatism, controlling eating and drinking habits discreetly, keeping indulgences in check. All these are tips for longevity. It's very Taoist. Page 427. Confucius said, a superior person may hold different opinions from others, but he can live in harmony with others. A petty person may seem agreeable with others, but he cannot live in harmony with others. Page 428. Confucius said, a refined person perfects what is good in people. He does not perfect what is bad. A petty person does the opposite. Do what you shouldn't do and don't do what you should do, right? Page 429. A refined person conceals the faults of others as a means to cultivate his own kindness. A petty person destroys the kind deeds of others as a means to show off his own greatness. Page 430. Zigong asked Confucius, will superior persons despise anyone? Confucius said, superior persons despise people who expose the faults of others. They despise subordinates who slander their superiors. They despise brave people who are discourteous, and they despise resolute people who are unreasonable. Page 431. Refined people possess solid principles and goals, and every plan that they make is firmly grounded in these principles. They do not need to know too many principles, but whatever they know is applied in their daily life. They do not need to do too many things, but whatever they do is done with good reasons. Their minds are calm and rest in good faith, as if it is the second nature to them. When they do good deeds, they are always apprehensive about not being able to put in their best efforts. Petty persons do the opposite. They do not care about moral principles. They cannot speak of remonstrations that are meaningful. They refuse to take lessons from the virtuous to improve themselves, and they cannot ground themselves in good deeds. They simply go with the flow, oblivious to their deeds. Page 433. Human beings have 6 types of emotions: joy, anger, sadness, happiness, fondness, and hatred. If a sage king contravenes these emotions, chaos will arise. If he appeases these emotions, harmony will be achieved. While a sage king instructs his people in accordance with human sentiments, he also imposes propriety to control these sentiments. While he yields to people's longings, he also established righteous principles to control these longings. If righteous principles are concise and complete, and propriety is orderly and humane, people will easily accept and follow the law and order. Page 434. Why is it that a leader cannot see the wrongdoings of the unscrupulous people around him and spoil those who are unrighteous? This is because he is not wise enough to recognize the wrongdoings of unscrupulous people. Also, his determination to uphold morality and justice is not strong enough to enable him to break free from personal biases and preference. Page 435. A ruler imposing virtuous principles to govern his state is appreciated by the people. A wicked ruler, on the contrary, is blamed and hated even by his own descendants. Therefore, a virtuous ruler can attract people from afar to submit to him, while a wicked ruler can even lose his closest relatives. Page 436. I have heard that loyalty, sincerity, and kindness could reduce enmity and hatred, but I have never heard that wielding power and authority over others could prevent enmity and hatred from happening. Page 437. The Duke of Zhou told his son Bo King, the Duke of Lu, a refined person does not distance himself from his family and relatives, and he will never cause government officials to complain about not being assigned important duties. If an old friend has not erred terribly, do not abandon him. Do not demand perfection from a person. Page 438. A superior person dislikes 3 types of behavior that diverge from the norm. 1. A fondness for stirring up controversies. 2. A fondness for creating bizarre mysteries. 3. A fondness for changing rules and regulations. The fondness for stirring up controversies will create commotions. The fondness for creating bizarre mysteries will defy virtues and upset social customs and practices. The fondness for changing rules and regulations will undermine laws and confuse the standards of behavior. Thus, there is nothing noble about gaining temporary fame or overcoming a difficult task resigned to circumstances. The highest form of deed is one that is pure without any trace of wickedness. Next to it is being able to subdue the rising of improper thoughts. Next to that is being able to stop improper thoughts from turning into actions. If when the improper thoughts are turned into actions, at least keep the actions from becoming too outrageous and steering these actions back to the right path without delay. The worst deed would be deviating too far from the right path without any awareness of this happening. Bad, right? Page 440. Rather than hoping that everything we say is a suitable piece of advice that should be accepted, why not deliberate whether what we say is pertinent to benevolence and righteousness? Page 441. A piece of writing should not be esteemed for its grandiose writing style. Instead, writing should be esteemed because it can preserve the tradition of virtue. The rhetorics need not be clever and decorative, but it should be careful not to injure morality. Page 442. The book of Hong Fan said, "No favor to anyone, no cronies in the government. The righteous path taken by the former sage kings was fair and mighty." Page 443. When a leader mistakes a person accepted by marketable social standard as a wise person and mistakes another defamed by society as unworthy person, this will cause people with the support of a faction to be appointed, while those who are not part of a faction cannot get any promotion. As a result, the malicious factions will band together to oust the virtuous and the able. Loyal ministers who are innocent will be condemned to death, while ministers with undeserved reputation will be knighted, so the days will become more tumultuous and the survivability of the country will be numbered. Li Guangyao shared the story of how they tried to, I think it was the communists, tried to enroll him. When he declined, they started to attack him in the papers and so on. Page 444. Stay close to the virtuous, but accord them with due respect. See them as formidable, but regard them with admiration. Be aware of the shortcomings in those we love, and recognize the goodness in those we detest. Yes. Page 445. Confucius said, a refined person is self-confident without being arrogant. A petty person is arrogant, yet lacks self-confidence. Page 446. Confucius said, a refined person does not recommend a person on account of what he says, neither does he dismiss what is said on account of the speaker. Page 447. It is better to acquire one remarkable horse expert like Bo Li than to own 10 superb horses. It is better to acquire one exemplary swordsman like Wu Yesi than to own 10 sharp swords. Acquiring many possessions is not as useful as acquiring a few experts who can identify exquisite items for you. The experts can help you to source and collect more valuable items, and the total number of possessions you own could be more than tenfold greater in the end. Delegation. Page 448. An ancient text said, if you do not understand the sun, just look at his friends and you will find the answer. If you do not understand the leader, just look at the ministers by his side and you will find the answer. Like-minded people will seek each other's company. Page 449. Mencius said, benevolence subdues its opposite just as water subdues fire. Nowadays, those who claim to implement a benevolent government do it as if with 1 cup of water they could save a whole wagon load of burning fuel. And when the flames are not extinguished, they say that water cannot subdue fire. This is worse than a government that is not benevolent, because in the end, even the small amount of benevolence will be lost. Page 450. Potential rebels would reveal shades of guilt on their faces when they speak. People who have doubt in their mind will speak incoherently like branches spreading out in a disorderly fashion. Kind people will speak little, while impetuous people talk volubly. Those who malign the kind-hearted will speak without focus, and those who have lost their personal integrity, their words will reflect the crookedness of their minds. Page 451. When a nation is about to fall because of the prevalence of moral decadence, natural disasters will happen as a warning to the leader of the state. If the leader is still oblivious to this and does not know how to reflect upon himself, abnormal and strange events will occur to frighten him. If he still does not try to correct things, harm and defeat will set in. Thus it can be seen that Tian, heaven, is kind to the leader and hopes to stop him or her from making disastrous decisions. Page 452. The divine being will not bestow blessings or cast curses on one family alone. Those who do good deeds will be blessed with luck and fortune, while those who do bad deeds will be plagued with misfortune. Even small virtuous deeds can cause the whole nation to rejoice, while bad deeds, even if they are just minor offenses, may cause the whole nation to crumble. Lao Tzu in the Sensing and Responding Universe, 太上感应篇, said the same thing. Page 453. Life or death, fortune or misfortune are all but the result of our own doings. When people accumulate a multitude of meritorious deeds, no natural catastrophe will befall them. Reap what you sow. Page 454. Nobody deserves anything, don't get me wrong. When people behave badly upon learning of good omens, the good omens will change to become disasters. Page 455. Natural disasters can be averted as long as people are willing to abandon their devious ways and do more good instead. But if they continue to commit bad deeds without remorse, they will never be able to escape the onslaught of misfortunes. Page 456. The sages are like creditors who hold on to the left side of a contract, who do not use it to pressure debtor to return the borrowed goods. The virtuous, just like the sages, are always giving but not collecting. On the other hand, unscrupulous people are like tax collectors, who are always collecting but not giving. In the way of heaven, there is no partiality of love. It is always on the side of the good men or women. And here comes the glossary. It's probably worthwhile studying when there's time. Thank you so much.